Okay, this is it. He's gonna stop. Hi. Slow down, you won't even see me!
World's worst Uber driver. Welcome back to GenXHorror, where we talk about all things 70s, 80s horror, and nostalgia. Gang, we have 267 titles behind us already, and you can peep the playlist to find some wild, obscure titles. We're adding 10 more bangers to the pile today. Remember when your parents were at work until 6 p.m., you had the whole house to yourself, and HBO was showing movies that probably should have had a few more parental warnings. While other kids are watching after-school specials, we were discovering that hell wasn't just a place, it was an apartment building in New York. It was lurking in the sewers in Chicago, or literally parked outside your house. Today we're taking a chronological ride through the 10 most gate-crashingly demonic films from 1977 to 1981 that'll make you question why your parents thought leaving you alone with premium cable was a good idea. These are wild. Let's get into it.
That's Father Harron in 5A. He's blind.
Blind? Well, then what does he look at?
If he's blind, what is he looking at? Man, you couldn't get away with that question today. Can't a guy just enjoy the warm sun, sighted or not? Anyway, imagine you're home alone after school, popping a tin of Jiffy Pop, and HBO starts playing this wild flick about a Brooklyn Heights brownstone, and suddenly you're learning that apartment hunting in New York is literally hell. Christina Raines plays a fashion model who moves into a gorgeous Gothic revival building, only to discover her quirky neighbors are actually demons guarding the gateway to hell. And surprise, she's been chosen as the next Sentinel to keep the portal closed. And that's a hot pass for me. That's a rough HOA. The film throws everything at you. Catholic guilt, body horror, real-life performers with physical disabilities cast as demons, which, yeah, even by 1977 standards was pretty questionable. And best of all, Christopher Walken before he became Christopher Walken. Director Michael Winner of Death Wish created something that feels like religious horror in the most disco-era way possible, complete with a wild Beverly D'Angelo masturbation scene that sets the tone for the most awkward chat in history. Universal Pictures gives this thing a serious push with a $3.5 million budget, hiring legends like Ava Gardner, Burgess Meredith, and even a young Jeff Goldblum, betting that post-Exorcist religious horror was box office gold. And they weren't wrong, pulling in over $10 million despite critics absolutely savaging it. This is a wildly disturbing movie with scenes that are honestly haunting. I'd go so far as to say it's the first sighting of the OG Slender Man in his youth.
It's 36 feet long. It weighs over 2,000 pounds.
That is a big boy. We're talking about 1980s Alligator. Nothing says urban paranoia quite like Robert Forster hunting a 36-foot, 2,000-pound alligator through Chicago's sewer system. A movie that turned every flush of the toilets into a potential death sentence for kids who just learned about the myth of flush baby gators growing huge underground. And being in Chicago, baby, this was my incredibly real fear. This gloriously self-aware creature feature follows a pet baby alligator flushed on the toilet in the 60s who'd been feasting on experimental growth hormone-laced dog carcasses from a shady lab, growing into a kaiju-sized reptile with a taste for sewer workers, wedding parties, and corrupt businessmen, loaded with them in Chicago. It's got real Island Claws origin kind of vibes. With a budget of just $1.5 million, the effects team used a combination of a real 12-foot alligator filmed on miniature sets, making it look massive, and a full-scale mechanical head for the close-ups, creating genuinely terrifying sequences that put many bigger-budget monster movies to shame. The script is stuffed with satirical jabs at Jaws and, again, corrupt politicians and animal experimentation, while Forster brings world-weary confidence of what could have been a throwaway role. His cop character is quirky, insecure, and dubbed Sewer Cop by tabloids, making him probably the most relatable action hero of the era. This is B-movie craftsmanship at its peak. It's smart enough to know it's ridiculous and skilled enough to make you jump anyway, and brave enough to have its monster eat a kid at a swimming pool. Because if the Sentinel taught us hell was in the apartment above us, Alligator confirmed it was definitely in the pipes below us as well.
You're the country's leading herpetologist. You have a wonderful mind, a doctorate degree, and beautiful tits.
I find this all fairly confusing.
Created by Tobe Hooper, maker of the screen sensation The Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Marty Rushton presents a new horror classic, Eaten Alive.
You know it's good when they have to give you the pedigree involved first, but honestly, guys, this one is good. It's 1977's Eaten Alive. Fresh off the success of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, Tobe Hooper decided his follow-up should be a sweaty, neon, psychedelic nightmare filmed entirely on sound stages with a legitimately insane Neville Brand feeding people to a pet crocodile at a decrepit Louisiana hotel. That's all intriguing. Brand plays Judd, the proprietor of the Starlight Hotel, who's working through some serious psychological issues by stabbing guests with a pitchfork or a scythe and serving them to his scaly buddy, with future stars like Robert Englund and a very young Kylie Richards from Real Housewives caught in the mayhem. Made for under $500,000, the entire film was shot on artificial sets at Raleigh Studios in Hollywood, with Hooper bathing everything in this garish red and green and yellow that make it look like a grindhouse hungover dream, directed by Mario Bava on a very tiny budget. But it wasn't. The movie was loosely based on the real-life serial killer Joe Ball, who allegedly fed victims to his pet alligators in Texas during the 1930s, though Hooper cranked the exploitation up a bit with added prostitution, child endangerment, and a genuinely distressing amount of screaming. Unlike the raw documentary-style terror of Chainsaw, Eaten Alive is deliberately artificial and theatrical, almost dreamlike in its staginess, which makes it even more unsettling, like you're trapped in a southern gothic nightmare where even the moon is fake, but the croc's appetite is unfortunately very, very real, setting the tone for the animalistic horror that would define late 70s grindhouse cinema.
Vampires, perverted creatures of the night, driven by insatiable thirst. This ancient evil is now a modern industry.
Perverted creatures of the night or not, they're innovators with big ideas that are going somewhere. I love this entire concept. We're talking about 1979's Thirst. While American horror was busy with haunted houses and demon possession, Australia, of all places, dropped a sophisticated vampire thriller that explored what if vampires weren't sexy aristocrats, but a corporate cult running blood farms like factory dairies. Suddenly being abducted by well-dressed sexy Australians becomes terrifying. Chantal Cantori stars as Kate Davis, a fashion designer descended from the infamous Elizabeth Bathory, who gets kidnapped by a secret society called the Brotherhood. They're trying to convert her into joining their ancient bloodline while showing her the industrialized vampire operation they got going, complete with human cattle being drained in sterile facilities. Director Ron Hardy and writer John Pinkney crafted something closer to the Stepford Wives meets corporate horror than traditional vampire scripts, with the film's clinical, cold approach to vampirism feeling genuinely disturbing. These aren't monsters in castles, they're monsters in boardrooms with, hell, shareholders. Made for around $400,000 Australian dollars, I don't know what that conversion is, the film's low budget actually enhances its paranoid atmosphere, with the blood farm sequences predating The Matrix's human battery pods by 2 decades, and proving Australian genre cinema was punching way above its weight in the late 70s. The supporting cast includes David Hemmings as the cult leader, lending serious dramatic credibility, while the script explores themes of bodily autonomy, identity, and whether you can resist becoming the monster you were supposedly born to be. But as always, screw what IMDb says. It's about blood farms for vampires, and I am the first in line for that twist. This is a thinking person's horror that respects the audience's intelligence while delivering unsettling imagery. If Patrick, a title coming up later, is about telekinetic horror, Thirst is about the horror of industrialized dehumanization, but with kick-ass fangs, making it the perfect complement to Australia's emerging genre film reputation. At the very least, this is a cautionary tale for the next time you dramatically try to pop a zit. In the ever-present tradition of what were they thinking 70s horror, someone took a script about a 400-year-old Native American shaman being reborn as a tumor on a woman's neck and said, yeah, you know what, get me Tony Curtis on the line. And honestly, God bless them for their courage. Susan Strasberg plays Karen, who discovers the growing lump on her shoulder is actually the fetus of a powerful medicine man seeking revenge on white America, leading to a third act where Curtis's tarot card reader character literally fights evil Native American magic with quote-unquote good Native American magic in a zero-gravity cosmic showdown that has to be seen to be believed. Directed by William Girdler, who tragically died in a helicopter crash shortly after filming this, $3 million adaptation of Graham Masterson's novel throws everything at the wall. Possession horror, medical and body horror, Native American mysticism, and special effects by Tom Berman that range from unsettling as always to that's obviously a dude in makeup. The film somehow convinced legitimate actors like Burgess Meredith, he couldn't keep him out of movies, and Stella Stevens to participate in what becomes increasingly insane, culminating in the shaman emerging as a full-grown warrior who makes hospital equipment fly around while Curtis channels spiritual energy like he's in a current-day Marvel movie. This is the kind of exploitation filmmaking that could only exist in the late 70s. It's too weird for mainstream audiences, it's too expensive for Grindhouse, existing in this comfortable limbo where studio money funded absolute depravity, making it the perfect bridge between the Visitor's cosmic weirdness, still to come, and the more grounded demonic horror of the Sentinel that we started with. Just wanted to pop in and say, as always, thanks for watching. I'm putting little videos in the beginning, like little scenes, and man, when you're doing 10 movies, it's so hard to pick like what would be a good scene, because there's tens, there's hundreds of them. But let me know if that works out for you, if it gets like, too much in the way. As always, thanks everyone for watching. These movies are insane. Like this is a really good list. Drop a like if you dig it, share it if you dig it, subscribe. You don't have to, it's cool. I just appreciate you being here and watching. Thanks so much.
May we introduce you to Patrick? Is playing dead? Or is he? Patrick is undergoing treatment. Only Kathy cares, understands.
Hello. Is anybody in there?
Look, man, Kathy can care for my comatose body any day. This is the aforementioned 1978's Patrick. Australia strikes again with this slow burn psychological thriller that asks the age-old question, can that comatose patient in the hospital kill you with his mind? And then spends 90 minutes proving that telekinetic murders are way creepier when the killer is motionless in a hospital bed drooling on himself. Director Richard Franklin, who'd later direct Psycho 2, crafted this clinical nightmare about Patrick, a young man in a vegetative state who murdered his mother and her lover 3 years prior, and who now fixates on his new hottie of a nurse, Kathy, with an obsessive psychic connection that manifests as spitting, causing frogs to rain down, and generally making her life a telekinetic hell. Robert Thompson's performance as Patrick, it's pretty damn disturbing. He barely moves except for those deliberate spits, yet conveys menace through sheer presence, turning immobility into a weapon, while the camera lingers on his vacant stare in a way that burrows into your brain. And this was made for roughly 400 grand, Australian 400 grand. Franklin uses the limited budget brilliantly, letting atmosphere and suggestion do the heavy lifting, while the few effect sequences, a possessed typewriter, a telekinetically controlled hydrotherapy tank drowning, they land with maximum impact because they're surrounded by such restraint and docileness. The film was successful enough internationally to spawn Italian sequels and remakes, cementing its status as one of Australia's most influential horror exports. And if thirst industrialized vampire horror, Patrick made medical settings absolutely terrifying by suggesting the worst threat isn't equipment failure, but the patient who's awake inside and honestly very, very pissed. This one gets points for being the weirdest trailer opening scenes ever. Meow. This is 1978's The Legacy. Right between the Sentinel's demon apartment and the Manitou's tumor shaman, we get this gothic British occult thriller that's basically about inheriting a creepy mansion, but the inheritance came with a mandatory soul-selling contract no one reads the fine print on, and honestly that's extremely on brand for 1978 horror. Catherine Ross from The Graduate and Sam Elliott, with that glorious mustache already in full effect, play an American couple who get invited to a mysterious English estate only to discover they're part of a group competing to inherit the fortune of a dying Satanist, with the catch being the winner has to accept his demonic benefactor as their new eternal boss. The director, Richard Marquand, who'd later helmed Return of the Jedi, proving horror directors really did have range, creates a glossy Hammer Films influence atmosphere with a proper $2.5 million budget, trading grit for gothic elegance, while people die in increasingly creative ways throughout, drowning in a pool with a suddenly locked cover, choking on chicken bones that won't dislodge. See me, feel... That's my Tommy. All because of an ancient evil that wants a new human puppet. The cast includes Roger Daltrey, who you just heard sing, from The Who, as one of the doomed inheritance seekers, and man, nothing says demonic aristocratic horror quite like Tommy himself getting offed in a British manor house. And the whole thing plays like The Wicker Man meets Agatha Christie, with a classic 80s satanic panic twist making an early appearance. This is comfort food for gothic horror fans. It's less shocking than its contemporaries, but it's more polished, with that distinctly British approach to evil that treats demonic pacts like crappy business arrangements, making it the classiest entry on the list that includes alligators eating people and tumors becoming Indian shaman.
Listen to me. As I was coming up to the house, that crazy wind came up. I think I hear the engine of that damn car.
Why do I picture Detective Dokes driving this car?
Surprise, motherfucker.
Universal Studios got pitched a murderous, sinister Lincoln Continental and somehow got $10 million to make it in a Utah desert town, proving that in 1977 you could greenlight basically anything if you had conviction. James Brolin, the father of Josh, if you need the lineage there, plays Sheriff Wade Parent, who has to protect his small town of Santa Ynez from a sleek, black, driverless vehicle that's literally from hell, honking its horn before running over cyclists, teachers, and anyone else unfortunate enough to be outside. Because Satan's preferred method of apocalypse delivery is a heavily customized 1971 Lincoln Continental Mark III with a really aggressive driving style. Director Elliot Silverstein from A Man Called Horse treats the material with straight-faced seriousness, letting the absurd premise work through commitment rather than winking at the audience, while the car itself, designed by George Barris, who created the Batmobile, is genuinely menacing with its blacked-out windows, custom grille, and demonic horn that sounds like it's announcing the end of times. The film includes one of horror's wildest sequences, where the car refuses to enter a cemetery to attack our heroes, establishing that consecrated ground actually works against it, and a finale involving explosives, a canyon, and the kind of vehicular destruction that makes you wonder how much of that budget was to car repairs. Despite mixed reviews, the car became a drive-in staple and cable television mainstay, traumatizing kids who never looked at a Lincoln the same way. And if Alligator made us fear sewers and Patrick made hospitals terrifying, man, the car confirmed that literally anything could be a horror villain with the right marketing, paving the road for Christine 6 years later.
What is wrong?
Go back upstairs. The car. It's in here.
Oh my God.
This might be one of my most favorite scenes for this entire video. Like, wow. The Visitor is a film so gloriously bonkers, it feels like a screenplay born of chaos assembled from torn up scripts of 5 different movies. It's an Italian-American co-production, and they somehow convinced John Huston, the legendary director of The Maltese Falcon and The African Queen, 2 of my faves, to play an intergalactic good wizard hunting an evil 8-year-old girl named Katie, who's the spawn of an ancient cosmic demon named Satine. It's Satan. Let's not kid ourselves. She's horrible. While Glenn Ford, Shelley Winters, Lance Henriksen from Alien wanders through scenes looking confused about what movie they signed up for. And man, it is a wild ride. Director Giulio Paradisi crafted this with an $800,000 budget that somehow stretched to include location shooting in Atlanta, cosmic Christ figure imagery, telekinetic basketball attacks, exploding birds, and a sequence where a giant bald eagle fights the demon child. I'm not showing it. All scored with progressive rock intensity that suggests the composer thought he was working in 2001: A Space Odyssey's horror sequel. The plot, if you can call it that, involves an intergalactic council trying to prevent Katie from creating a demon brother because her father seeded evil across the universe. But the film cares more about vibes than plot coherence, for sure. It's throwing everything from assassination attempts to astral projection to John Huston playing cosmic basketball with a group of bald children. And at that point, you just have to go with it. This is the peak late 70s Italian exploitation filmmaking invading American cinema. It's too expensive to be pure trash. It is far too weird to be mainstream and exists in this little chaotic zone where serious actors deliver insane dialogue with super straight faces, making it the spiritual successor of the Manitou's wildness while predicting the cosmic horror of The Survivor, which is coming up next, and maybe proof that 1979 was truly the weirdest year in horror history, and you could use this flick as the example of that. Man, good luck finding your check bag after that. We're closing out this journey through Hell's Waiting Room with Australia's final contribution to our list. They've been all over this list, and it's a moody, atmospheric, supernatural mystery that asks, what if you survived a plane crash but couldn't remember how, and also everyone else is dead, and maybe you're dead too, but nobody's quite sure, because Australian horror wasn't done psychologically destroying us after Patrick and Thirst. Man, that was a good one. Robert Powell stars as Keller, a pilot who emerges unscathed from a horrific 747 crash that kills everyone else on board, only to be haunted by the victim's ghosts, seeking answers about what really happened in the cockpit during those final moments. Directed by Dave Hemmings, yes, the same actor from Thirst, now behind the camera, and based on a novel by James Herbert, this $2 million Australian-British co-production leans heavily into ambiguous, Lynchian kind of dread rather than explicit scares, using the burnt plane wreckage as a reoccurring visual metaphor for Keller's shattered psyche, while ghosts manifest through mirrors, reflections, and memory fragments. Always thanks to IMDb for the heady, deeper meaning. Honestly, I just dig the ghosts. While The Survivor didn't achieve the cult status of Patrick or even the innovation of Thirst, it represents the evolution of late 70s, early 80s horror into something more introspective and psychological. And it's the guilt and unanswered questions living inside our own heads, which is exactly the kind of thought that kept latchkey kids staring at their bedroom ceilings long after these credits rolled. Man, these are 10 beautiful movies from HBO, late night cable, and that cool friend's older brother's VHS collection, unleashed on an unsuspecting generation of kids who just wanted to watch something scary while their parents worked late. From Brooklyn Heights to the Australian Outback, from possessed tumors to demon Lincoln Continentals, these films showed us that hell wasn't just some abstract theological concept, it was everywhere, waiting in the places we thought were safe, ready to traumatize us in gloriously practical effects-driven, non-CGI safety net ways that modern horror just can't quite replicate. Thanks as always for your eyes. Let me know what movies you just can't shake from the 70s and 80s and utterly define Generation X. I am constantly collecting as many titles as possible and don't see me stopping anytime soon. I love you guys, and as always, stay cool.